And welcome back, yours truly, Anthony Parker Alexander. We'll give you some time to come on board. What you see right here is all the major networks and newspapers across the country. The New York Times, the Washington Post, MSNBC, CBS, ABC, CNN. And what station is missing? Fox. Wasn't able to get that on here. So maybe next time you'll see a real Fox in here. But with the writer's strike and everything else going on, and we're looking at news now, and it is so crazy. You look at this. Look at that now. All the major networks that you watch. Right now, there's a split in between. And that split is yours truly, Anthony Parker. Keeping it honest. We keep it simple. We keep it real. And I am, of course, Anthony Parker Alexander. This is my table of information. You'll see me using this throughout the show. On our program, what we try to do is we try to give you the left side, we try to give you the right side of stories, and at the end, hopefully you will decide. You may be upset with what you see and hear, but at least you know it was told in a fair and balanced way. Maybe that's why we don't have Fox on there, because we were fair and honest before they were fair and honest. Been doing this again for some years. Did TV, did radio, online, now I'm doing streaming. And it's so interesting when they say the mainstream media keeps stories away from you. Yes, they do. And we're going to talk about that. So on our show, like I said, we try to give you all sides of the story. And kind of like Cliff Notes, you get the information, then you check it out. Internet's out there. You got to, see if you can believe the internet, but do your due diligence and try to find out all the information we give you here. So don't take someone else's word for it. Even the Bible, read it for yourself. So this has been a crazy time as far as news. You want to contact me, any kind of news you want to see on the program, or something that you say, well, I wonder if somebody will talk about that story. Well, yours truly will. My telephone number that you can text me is 216-702-3718, 216-702-3718. You can email me, it's parkerman2011 at gmail.com, parkerman2011 at gmail.com. And also go to my Patreon page. When you're watching the show, you can go to more information about, and we have a link that puts you to our Patreon page. And on that page, that is for people who want to help contribute to some of the hosts who are putting in their hard work to put these shows together. Kind of like a PBS, kind of like a sponsorship. So throughout the show, at the end of the show, go to the more information, hit the Patreon, and you have different tiers that you can contribute to help us do this show, where we might have a desk where we're doing this. We won't have everything on the table. And we grow because you support us. So we thank you for that. So this show is going to be an interesting one because a lot of crazy things are going on. Trump, Biden, Vivek, DeSantis, Newsome, and Travis. Now, which one of these people are going to be more susceptible to going to jail? It could be one, it could be two, it could be more. But it's definitely going to be somebody. DeSantis, talk about him real quick. He's crazy as far as things that he's saying, talking about slitting people's throat when he becomes president. We're going to talk about that. Dark Brandon. I was telling somebody about Dark Brandon, and they're like, who is that? Crazy story. Again, are we bored now? He says he wants one more indictment. And then this story, which I think people have missed. This is Private Travis King. This guy right here, Travis King. An interesting story. I'm going to tell you about it. So, this guy spent 48 days in South Korea before running across the border to North Korea. He had been escorted by the military to an airport outside Seoul for possible further disciplinary action in the United States before he ended up on the heavily fortified border between North and South Korea. Now, who goes there? Why would you go there? So, Private Second Class Travis King, 23, he spent 48 days in a prison, a city about 50 miles south of the South Korean capital, after he failed to pay a $4,000 fine on charges that included damaging public property, a South Korea government official said. So, according to legal documents, he did not cooperate when officers tried to jail him in October after he caused hundreds of dollars in damage to a police cruiser as he shouted profanities about Koreans and the Korean army. So you wonder, well, why is this guy? Wrong place, wrong time. You're screaming at the Korean police, and then you want to go across the border? So King, who joined the U.S. Army in January 21, had served as a cavalry scout with the Korean Recreational Force, part of the decades-old United States security commitment to South Korea. But his posting was dogged by legal troubles. He faced 2 allegations of assault in South Korea and eventually pleaded guilty to 1 instance of assault and destroying public property. So he did admit that he did do wrong. But why did he do wrong? Some people said that he was scared and he was bullied. Each day Mr. King spent at the penitentiary was equivalent to about $100,000, or about $80, said the official who was not authorized to speak. So after serving time, he had been due to face military disciplinary action on his return to Port Bliss, Texas. So he was going to go back home to America. And this is where it gets even more fascinating. Asked whether U.S. military considered him to be AWOL or deserter, they said, I'm not sure what he would call him. Wow. So what had happened was he decided not to get on the plane. When he didn't get on this plane to go back to America, he wound up with this tour people. And these people were, going around Korea, and they were on tour. So he got in with them, and he supposedly told somebody, hey, I'm going to go on the other side. And they thought he was joking. And then bam, just like that, he ran to the other side. So the question is with this guy, why did he do it? Did he have any mental struggles? Was he bullied, like he said? Was he wanting to become a sympathizer with the North Korea government? The United States Army says that they don't believe so. So right now, they don't know his condition. But like I said, he boated across. Man, from one place to another place. And he thought that this was even better. So now, the United States is trying to find out, is he a sympathizer, 1, mental illness 2, bully 3, did he know what he was doing 4, and how do we get him out? But he decided, hey, I'm going to see if I can do that. And it's not a laughing matter. It's something that the government isn't really talking about. So I saw it on a mainstreaming show. We're going to continue to talk about that, what the government is doing, why he possibly might have left if he had a mental illness. Because you're watching, and not because of a mental illness, but you're watching Keeping It Honest with yours truly, Anthony Parker Alexander. And we're going to go back and talk about the other stories right after this. So keep it real, keep it simple, keep it honest. And we'll be right back after this. And welcome back again. You just saw me jump. You're watching Keeping It Honest with yours truly, Anthony Parker Alexander. And we are talking about, get my mic here going. There we go. We are talking about a lot of the crazy stories that have happened. So sit back, relax, and enjoy. Well, I tell you, when you got that 30-second break, hopefully you guys get to run around and get something too, because that's what I did. So like I said, we have a lot of papers here, and we're going to talk about some things. So current events, right here. One thing I like, we got so many trials and indictments coming up in the process. We've seen a lot. So I like the official reports of the indictments. I like reading like you see other media people reading, or maybe their people read. But I've got right here, Hunter Biden indictment. This is 45 pages. I've got right here, as I try to look, no, this one's 45 pages. Looks like a lot. Upcoming show, we're going to break it down, make it interesting to you. And this talks about Donald Trump and the indictments that he has. Kind of normal now for him. And this is Hunter Biden. And this is the indictment, 19 pages. So I know a lot of people, when you look at the pundits on TV and they talk about different things, well, I've looked at the indictment. Have you seen the indictment? So I have seen the indictment. And I'm telling you, it is very fascinating. We're going to talk about the Constitution too, but we're going to talk about freedom of speech and everything and how all this ties into the indictment. So on the show, what we also do, we do our positive singing. Yes, he's inspirational too. One of my favorite quotes. This is very interesting. You are never too old to set another goal or to dream a new dream. And that was from Les Brown. So it isn't Les Brown, the trumpet player. It's Les Brown, the motivational speaker. And that could apply to the people running for president and anybody in office who people think they're too old. Les Brown again says, you are never too old to set another goal or to dream a new dream. So give Donald Trump credit. He's 78, wants to run again for president. Give Joe Biden credit. He's 80, wants to run again for president. And Les Brown, years ago when I was first starting out in this business, I would go and network with people. And Les Brown was a motivational speaker, still around, but a nationally known motivational speaker. And he was in my city when I was just starting out. And I knew somebody that knew him. And I went to that person who was known and pretty much said, hey, do you think you could introduce me to that person, Les Brown, over there? And this is what the guy said. No, you need to learn how to network and you go do it yourself. And besides me saying, wow, man, I went over there and did it myself. And he was one of the first people that I networked with and also started interviewing. So in essence, thank you for telling me no, so I can do it. What a great quote. So here's the question, the hardest question you've ever been asked. One of the hardest questions you've ever been asked. How will you know when it's time to let go of something that isn't working for you? How do you know that? How do you know that? You've been doing something or trying something for years, you keep hitting the same wall, maybe running for politics, maybe trying to get a TV show, maybe trying to interview people, and maybe trying to get that good job that you want. How will you know when it's time to let go of something that isn't working for you? You have to soul search and really say, okay, well, if this isn't working, you know what? Governor DeSantis, we're going to talk about him too. He wants to slit people's throats if he gets in office, so remember that. He's changed his campaign because it wasn't working, and maybe this new campaign, as far as slitting throats, maybe that's not a good way to go too. And for all the people that are running for president, how will you know when it's time to let go of something that isn't working for you? If you don't know, then that situation will let you know. So people trying to get on the debate stage and trying to get on in every state who are running for president, they may want to run, they may want to win, but if they can't get on there, as far as all these states and the debate, then they won't be able to finish their run for president. So again, how will you know when it's time to let go of something that isn't working for you? Hardest question ever. Every show we're going to have that. So speaking of, and I just kind of chuckled, we got the federal charges against Trump. Conspiracy to defraud the United States, conspiracy to obstruct official proceedings, obstruction of official proceeding, and conspiracy against rights. Right there. And I was watching him recently, and you got to give the guy credit. Whether you're for him or against him, how does he keep on doing what he does? How does he do that? I don't know. I give him a lot of credit, though. And then we come to the person that I don't give credit to, Hunter Biden. 2 counts of willful failure to pay federal income tax, and 1 count of possession of a firearm by a person who is an unlawful user or addicted to a controlled substance. Hunter Biden. And here, right here, you look at Donald Trump. These are just some of the court proceedings that he has coming up for the run for president. How is he even going to make it for the run for president? Because it's a lot to do. When is he going to take the time and have the time to go to court and also to run and try to win? But the way that things are today, is it the best of 2 evils or the worst of 2 evils? So you got him, but then you have Biden now. His name has gone down so bad that you wonder, is there going to be a Claiborne to help him out? Because even now, Obama's trying to help him out. But will Biden listen? We're going to find out. And how many people think that he is involved with Hunter Biden and the money trail? Everybody, every politician these days, it seems, the ones running for mayor or president, and probably mayor too, and senator, and governor, you tell me, and council person, let's not forget that, do you really believe in your politicians? So we're going to give you a cliff notes real quick. Trump's indictments. He has 4 criminal investigations. Indicted. The Manhattan hush money probe. Do we remember these? Indicted. Special counsel's Mar-a-Lago document case with all those packages, those boxes. Hey, I forgot. I thought I could keep these. Indicted. Special counsel's January 6th investigation, which they were talking about, and under investigation, post-election conduct in Fulton County, Georgia. So, as he's out and about, and the lawyers are out and about, they're saying that he willfully started an insurrection. But it's interesting because nobody who was involved directly, politically with him is being indicted but just him. So you look at it, okay, well, when people get you engaged or hopeful, they can kind of lead you the way that they want to lead you. From politicians to giving you what you want to hear, to pastors giving you what you want to hear, to media outlets giving you what you want to hear. So again, when they give you what you want to hear, use cliff notes, like I said. So we just talked about a little bit about Trump, but Biden has claimed that he had no knowledge of Hunter's business dealings, saying that he had never discussed with my son or my brother or anyone else anything having to do with this business, period. That's why I never talked to my son or my brother or anyone else, even distant family members, about their business interests, period. Like many people, and this is what Biden's attorney said, Hunter spoke with his father every day and would often put his father occasionally would put his father on to say hello to whoever he happened to be caught on talking to the phone at dinner with. Mr. Archer, who was saying that Mr. Biden was there, didn't just say hi, but he was on phone calls. Do you believe that Joe Biden, in the years he was VP, and also in those years when his son was heavily influenced by drugs, didn't try to take money or say, hey, you know what, my dad is here. Dad, you want to say hi to Barista or another country? So the attorney said, as he described it, it was all casual. They talked about the weather, what's going on. There wasn't a single conversation about any of the business dealings that Hunter had. So you're in the kitchen, Joe Biden, and you go into the living room and Hunter's on the phone talking to a moneymaker. And then does Hunter say, hey, Dad, since you're here, I'm talking to this guy. You want to say hi? Oh, yeah. And then Hunter gives his dad the phone, and Biden gets on. Oh, yeah, the weather's doing good. I'm doing good. Yeah. Or does he say, oh, yeah, well, you want me to see if I can make that deal? Okay, well, see if you can keep my son on that committee, and I'll see what I can do. Something to think about. Does it seem like every person's going to get indicted? And my question is, since we're talking about indictments, we hear the term, but what is an indictment? I mean, have you been indicted? I've never been indicted. Thank goodness. Well, if you look at Trump, I guess he says he wants one more indictment. So I'm going to tell you, what is an indictment? What it means for someone to be indicted. An indictment is a formal notification that a grand jury has brought charges against a defendant. A grand jury is convened in some criminal cases to decide if prosecutors have enough evidence to go to trial. After the indictment is brought, the defendant is formally arraigned on criminal charges. So this vote, 76-year-old Donald Trump, a lot of pressure. With the last vote, man, he's indicted. So what happens now to Donald Trump? So this is a formal notice to a defendant that they have been charged with a crime. So we indicted, you've been officially charged with a crime. In the United States, when prosecutors are trying to bring a felony case against a defendant, either on the state or the federal level, they may present evidence to a grand jury instead of filing the charges themselves. And that's what they're doing now. Interesting, in order to be prosecuted on a felony charge in New York, where Trump was first indicted, there has to first be an indictment. Okay, unless the right is waived by the defendant. So waiving that right would be somewhat uncommon. An indictment is a finding by a grand jury that there is reasonable crime being committed. So they're saying Hunter Biden, Joe Biden, Donald Trump, that they think there's a crime being committed, but they have to prove that. So before that happens, a grand jury, a secret panel, is convened and then presented with testimony from witnesses and documents collected during a criminal investigation. So whether you believe it or not, there's evidence supposedly saying that all these guys from the Bidens to Donald Trump should be indicted. So now after that, the grand jurors are allowed to ask questions. Prosecutors will tell them what charges they're seeking and explain the circumstances around each one, which we've been seeing with these documents right here. So in a New York case, 16, listen to this. Of an original selected 23 grand jurors must be present for a voting quorum. From there, a majority of 12 grand jurors must find that there is reasonable cause to believe the accused person committed the crime. When the vote is cast and the charging documents are filed, the indictment is filed under seal. And that's when he opened up and we find out a little bit more about these. So how do you take all this if you're anybody getting indicted? Man, because you look at this, like I said. So you have it technically where Donald Trump could potentially be indicted and put out of office. And not forget Biden. Biden could be indicted and charged and maybe resign and put out of office too. So Donald Trump, again, we don't really talk a lot about him. We kind of give the news. We don't sway one way or another. We kind of give you the common sense. So Donald Trump has been talking about his rights. Attorneys have said, well, you know what? Donald Trump is innocent because it was his right, free speech to say things. Yes, I said the voting and the end result was unfair. I believe that I won. The courts are saying, no, you didn't. You didn't believe you won. You know, it's kind of interesting. The more I follow the story, maybe in his mind, I believe that he believed he really won. Did he go about different ways of trying to prove it? That's up to the eyes of the beholder and also the court. So freedom of speech. And I'm going to go to the Constitution. And this supposedly what would be disqualifying you from holding office. But let's go back to this. Remember this, storming the Capitol. Not Stormy Davis, but storming the Capitol. Where were you at when they were doing all of that? I was watching on TV and I thought, man, what the heck is happening? That is crazy. And that was crazy, no matter what. Were they just going in a peaceful way? No. People were hurt, people were killed. So we saw that picture. But then, clearly, this is really crazy. Climbing on top of the building to get in. Police and people holding the doors inside so these people won't get in. Whether you think it was an insurrection or not, it was a lot of crazy things that happened. Again, in the eye of the beholder, most of the Republicans, they think that Donald Trump did win the election. Most of the Democrats feel that Donald Trump didn't win the election. You talk about a split nation. So let's go, if we look at the Constitution, again, it's in the eye of the beholder. What would put you out of office in this circumstance? So this is the 14th Amendment, equal protection and other rights. Section 3, disqualification from holding office. No person shall be a senator or representative in Congress or elector of president and vice president or hold any office, civil or military, under the United States or under any state who, having previously taken an oath as a member of Congress or as an officer of the United States or as a member of any state legislature or as an executive or judicial officer, to support the Constitution of the United States, shall have engaged in insurrection or rebellion against the same, or given aid or comfort to the enemies thereof. But Congress may be in a vote of 2/3 of each house, they can remove such disability. So technically, right there, if 2/3 of Congress vote, they could get rid of that. So what are people climbing, the Capitol? Was that an insurrection? In Section 3, it was adopted after the Civil War as a mechanism to protect American democracy from those disloyal to the Constitution. It bars from office any person who swore an oath to support the Constitution of the United States as a federal or state officer and then engaged in insurrection or rebellion against the same, unless Congress removes the disqualification by 2/3 vote of each house. So again, look at these pictures. Was this considered an insurrection? Did Donald Trump try to get people to go to the Capitol and raid it? And right here, storm the Capitol. In the eye of the beholder, Democrats say yes. Wow. Republicans say no. So as we see all that happening, favorable views of these two people, Biden and Trump. Biden's got 1%, 39. Trump's got 38. People who really don't approve of both of them, 24%. So if they're neck and neck, which is crazy, so if 24%, they'll either probably split it or they'll go to one or the other, depending who's indicted and who you believe in. Biden approval so far. He's got a lot to make up for, dealing with his daughter and some other things which we'll talk about. Overall approval is 40%. Economic approval, 34. One of the lowest percentage points running for president. And you have Kamala Harris, who has the lowest percentage points ever for a person running for VP. When asked about that, she said, well, there are some people that love me, but do they love her enough to want her to be president? Keep it simple, keep it honest, keep it real. You're watching our show. We thank you for supporting us. We love you for continuing to support us. And we want to tell you, hey, if it wasn't for you guys, we would not be here. So continue to support us as we support you. Joe Biden, President Biden. Neck and neck, it seems like. It's one thing that they're doing. They are neck and neck as far as getting them in so much trouble or people getting them in so much trouble. So there's a CNN poll. Who is more likable? And are you just tired of these two now? Okay. Aren't you just tired? So there's 24% of people who say they don't support neither side. So when you zoom in on these, unfavorable, 22% of adults and 21% of registered voters had an unfavorable view of both men. So let's consider this. Let's go back when Hillary Clinton was running. Her approval rating, which was really interesting, it was higher than these two guys. Okay. It was higher than these two guys. Hers was 40%. So the closest anyone has come to having a favorable rating was Biden. Earlier, he had a 42% approval to unfavorable 54%. Wow. So they said if Biden and Trump make it, are you picking the best of two evils? Any third-party people out there? Let's go back to 1992. Ross Perot, you remember him? He had like big ears, but rich. Okay? He was favored by 16%. Usually we think about this, most people, they like one or the other. Here, they really don't like either one. So favorable rating, some of the highest. Bill Clinton, 44%. I remember him. He was loved by a lot of people. Some people called him at one point the first Black president. My thing would have been, hey, it would have been interesting if Obama and Bill Clinton went head to head. So you have these two people. Does this give a chance for the third party to come? Or is this giving a chance for Gavin Newsome to come up? Or Vivek Ramaswamy? Or Tim Scott? The opportunity's there. So if these cases go for a long time, technically, Donald Trump, right before the election, will still be going to court. And if they had to get the verdict out, it would probably be after November going into 2025. So if he wins, he technically could be the president or the first felon president of the United States in office. Because they're just because you're charged and indicted doesn't mean you can't run. Whether you go to jail, that's a different story. So technically, he could be the president, the next president and he has a felony or he's in jail, and then whoever would be his running mate would probably have to take his place, or even Joe Biden, if it's found out that he did take some money and bribed other countries, he would, of course, I think, go to Richard Nixon way. He would go to Richard Nixon way, and he would resign. So if he resigns before next year and before all the debates are, then who would take his place? And then, of course, who would also um, take Kamala's place? Because I don't think people want her to stay in office. But we're going to talk about that on some other shows. We're going to dwell into the indictment process of Hunter Biden, because we talk bad about him all the time. And it's just me not really thinking he's a good human being. That's my one commentary. But do we really know him? We're going to talk about who is Hunter Biden. I'm going to give you the information out there so you can decide if he's a human being or just a spirited, mean, egotistical human being. And then we're also going to talk about Donald Trump and the many convictions. Some people say the same thing about him. I'm just keeping it real, keeping it honest. So you let me know what you think on that. You can email yours truly. It's parkerman2011 at gmail.com, 2011 at gmail.com. You can text me. It's 216-702-3718, 216-702-3718. And, as we're talking politics, this is another thing. Talk about people likely to go to jail. So Sean Hannity, DeSantis, and Gavin Newsom. These three guys here. So you know what? Think about this real quick. So Sean Hannity said to Newsom, he's the governor of California, and he told him, hey, you know what? Would you be interested in debating Governor DeSantis? And he said, yeah. So Hannity asked DeSantis, and DeSantis said, yeah, I want to do that too. So my question is, why would a guy who's running for president debate a guy who is a governor? Both of them are governors, but why take your time? So Arnold Schwarzenegger said this would be a no-brainer if they debate each other and how exciting it would be. So it's going to take place. It's going to be either November 8th or 10th in either Georgia, Nevada, or now North Carolina. So he wants to go. This is DeSantis wants to go after Newsom's record. So it will be Florida technically against California. So this is what DeSantis says. Florida has been the number one state for net in immigration. We have the number one ranked economy, number one in education, crime at a 50-year low. But in another sense, this is the debate for the future of our country, because you have people like Joe Biden. They would love to see the Californiation of the United States. So Florida is one of the best, which is interesting, states to live in. So Florida increased the population by 1.9%, making it the fastest growing state. So during the same period, California saw a population decline, in this case by 0.3%. So Governor Newsom, which is interesting, he's been wanting to challenge Governor DeSantis for a while. But why? I mean, are you doing this because you want to make a name for yourself? Because supposedly you can put your name on a ticket if you're successful against DeSantis, and then be that person, take the place of Joe Biden? Because people see, okay, he can really fight, he can really debate. Where DeSantis, if you lose a debate with this guy who's not running right now for president, and you're losing by Trump in at least 20, 30, 40% digits, you're going to really look bad. So Newsom says he's ready to do this. And DeSantis is ready too. So with this, Biden may not even be the nominee. You could have Gavin Newsom. You could even have Kamala Harris. And I think if we go down that direction, that's going to accelerate American decline. So why exactly are you, Governor Newsom, running a debate against presidential candidate? Wow. In California, I mean, they're low in employment, they're high in inflation, and it's hard to find even a place to live. But this will be probably one of the most exciting debates ever. There's some rationale between these two, and it's a coup with Sean Hannity. There's some rationale between Governor DeSantis of Florida and Governor Newsom of California. There's a lot to lose, but there's a lot to gain. Speaking of gaining, I want to just slit their throats. That is what Florida Governor Ron DeSantis said. He's trying to recreate his campaign. Okay, he's had people, staffers that have quit. He's had to have them, fired, let go. He's had some of the employees, staffers who weren't representative of him, or maybe they were. So he said not too long ago that if elected to the White House, he would start slitting throats in the federal bureaucracy on his first day in power. So why would you do that? I mean, you've had a conservative writer who created a video containing a Nazi symbol on your staff you got rid of. So he made his comment about slitting throats in an event in the second state to vote. On bureaucracy, this is exactly what he said, so I'm not taking anything out. On bureaucracy, we're going to have all these deep state people, we're going to start slitting throats on day one and be ready to go. You're going to see a huge, huge outcry because Washington wants to protect its own. So we can see draining the swamp, not draining the people. Slitting their throats. I mean, really? Now, would something like that cause an insurrection? You get to the wrong people that believe in you and they say, hey, you know what? This is what he says. Maybe this is what he means. So DeSantis has used this term before, slitting throats. He used it when he wanted to appoint a defense secretary who would slit some throats. And he, very firm, very strong, said, slit some throats. What is this world coming to? Wow. So it's interesting. He, DeSantis, was a United States Navy lawyer, and he knows about the military. He started his legal career at Guantanamo Bay, so he knows the legalities of things. So when you say certain things, you just really have to be careful. As I said, freedom of speech. Speaking of speech, trying to get my microphone together. So when you're doing a show on your own, you can see all this that we're doing, the time and effort. So again, on our show, we keep it simple, keep it real, we keep it honest. We thank you guys for supporting the show. Go to our Patreon page, and on there you can sponsor, help us grow. You can say, hey, you know what? We like the show. We want to be a part of this family as it grows, as they tell stories that nobody else talks about, or they don't talk about it and put that Parker spin on there. So you go to Patreon and you look up Keep It Simple or Keep It Honest with Anthony Parker Alexander, or you go to my more information about right on here, and it would automatically take you to that website. And we have 3 different tiers that you can subscribe to be a part of our family and help us grow, from microphones to cameras to putting together all this work that we do. And we do it for you. So one of my people that I really like, Vivek. We talk about who you don't want because you're tired. Well, Vivek Ramaswamy I got it right now because he's getting known. So a year ago, we didn't know anything about this guy. Excuse me. Now, in the Republican Party, you have Donald Trump, you have DeSantis, you have Tim Scott, and now Vivek Ramaswamy. So you may not believe in everything that he says, but he seems like he believes in God. I've seen a couple of town hall meetings. This guy can answer anything. I would really love to see him and maybe Cornel West talk. But the energy that you see in this guy, that's how he is. He can talk at the drop of a hat. Background, guy's got a lot of money, billionaire. He's done cancer research. He's done a lot of scientific research. He's helped with cures. He wants to run for president and change the world and literally change the world. Some of the things he wants to do, which I don't like though, he wants to make the voting age 25 and up. He's against affirmative action. But he was against, or he was for helping a lot of people. But he's a guy where he might make it in somebody's cabinet, or right now he's in fourth place. But right when Donald Trump was running, he had 1% at the time that Vivek is running now. And look at Donald Trump now. So you don't know. Do you want old blood in there, or do you want new blood in there in the office? So I had mentioned that we were talking about the one guy and that story, dealing with the military. So we're going to come back right after this and continue it. You're watching Keeping It Honest with yours truly, Anthony Parker Alexander. And welcome back again. Yours truly, Anthony Parker of Keeping It Honest. So when we talked about the story, I did some research, and this is about the guy, Travis King. And he just darted, okay, from one side to the other side. And here's a picture of him here. If you haven't seen a picture, some people say, it was reported. Well, that's him right there with this person. And he told her that I'm going to dart across the border. She looked at him and laughed and thought he was crazy. Well, now he's in a crazy situation. So let me continue with the story. Michaela Johnson said that no one really figured out what was happening until it was too late. She added that King just disappeared around the corner. And he got into this tour where he wasn't supposed to, and then ran away. So an American Airlines source familiar with the situation confirmed that King was escorted from the departure plane. King's relatives said Wednesday that he had been grieving the death of his young cousin and acting unlike himself. So maybe that's what got him, kind of goofy. It's out of his character, his uncle said. I've never seen him get down like that ever. He's the first American known to have been detained in North Korea for nearly 5 years. It is also possible that North Korea will interrogate him. The U.S. has about 28,000 troops stationed in the South, a treaty ally that has remained frozen in conflict with the North since the Korean War ended in an armistice rather than a peace treaty over 70 years ago. So now that he's over there, what is the United States going to do? So they're trying to see if they can classify him as a, despite him running himself. And if they decide he's a prisoner of war, it might help him. But if he's just somebody that ran away, he will not be able to be helped. So as an active duty person, he might appear to qualify as a prisoner of war. But if he doesn't, well, he's just up the creek. So he must be treated no matter what, humanly in accordance with international law. So as we talk about him, and I'm going to read you some of the comments that was said. So what do you think so far? Do you think the United States should go after him and save him? As I'm trying to save my microphone. Some of the comments. King, a private second class who has served in the Army for approximately 2 years, it seems that he should have been a private first class by now. Perhaps disciplinary issues slowed his progression to rank. Wow. Now it makes much sense. He won't take responsibility for his actions and ran instead. This is a common theme today, to have no accountability, while the family members lie and say that he was getting his life together and never did anything wrong. Wow. So again, this is the story of a family trying to come through. And the family, which is interesting, they said that he has never shown any illnesses or misbehaviors, and he's doing it now. So some say it was a death of one of his relatives that hit him hard, and other people say that he was both. So hopefully they will get down to the bottom of this, and the United States will be able to return him home. But North Korea, South Korea, that is something you just don't do. That is not a good thing. Wow. So I'm keeping it real, keeping it honest. With yours truly, Anthony Parker. What an interesting story, a story that nobody really talks about. And we have to make sure that we put that out there. Comments, questions, you let me know. So, speaking of letting me know, the Hollywood strike, people are still striking. And my thing is, okay, well, you know what? Everybody needs their money. The thing that we don't understand, which is interesting, is that how much money do people really make in Hollywood? People are debating, and hey, we need the money. Only the ones, and maybe under 10% are really making a lot of money. The Tom Cruises, you name them, of the world. That's the only one I could think of is really good. Is he striking for people? He's out there doing his own little thing, and that's kind of good. But how does it affect us? The writers, they need money. The TV movie people, they need money. Their thing is they're making less money because there's not that many production as far as TV. There's not as many episodes because everybody's going streaming instead of TV it being 20 something. Streaming is 10 something. And now with AI, you can write a script, you can film something and save that. And then since people aren't getting as much residuals and shows are being canceled, you have no proof literally if this is your work that you've done. So I say, if you've done the work, make sure you save it as soon as you've done it. So we're looking at this, and the powers that be say, okay, well, you know what? And most of them don't even have health care, which is interesting. But the powers that be in Hollywood are saying, okay, keep striking as long as you want, because we can hold out. So some people in Hollywood, the strikers, they're not saying don't support streamers, but they would kind of like if one day you stop streaming something. Because streaming to me and probably to you, if there's no new stuff on TV or movies, well, you know what? We got streaming. We can look at any show we want to that we never had time. So are you willing for one day to support the actors and writers and stop streaming for at least one day? Or for people in Hollywood, if you can't get a job, would you become a scab to get yourself out there? I put this out to people. If there's a job that you want and your company or the job that you were trying to get into went on strike, would you use that as an opportunity to get a job and be known as a scab? Or let's go back to my question that I said. When do you know that it's time to give up something that you've been doing? Put that question into that question. Would you cross a picket line to make it work for you, or would you support that organization? Wow, something to think about. Speaking of thinking about, real quick, we're going to literally almost end on a good story. Well, I don't know if it's a good story, but it's an interesting story. All right. This lady right here, nice lady. Her grandma kind of person. Somebody probably in your neighborhood who you know, who you've helped or she's helped you. And she's also executive director of the Police Officers Association in San Jose. So look at this right here. There she goes, right there. Hey, doing some good things, huh? Keep staring at this picture as I give you this story. This lady, people called her the Breaking Bad grandma. She's accused of running a drug ring from her California home and it shocked the neighborhood, and they called her the Breaking Bad grandma. Joanne Segovia, she worked as executive director of the San Jose Police Officers Association. She's been slapped with federal charges for allegedly importing a synthetic opioid called Valerie fentanyl. She's more the kind of person you would imagine who would have chosen to make chocolate chip cookies or something ready for the kids like a typical grandma. This is a complete surprise. There was nothing unusual going on there. It's like Breaking Bad. You're not expecting that at all. I mean, everyone is shocked. And if you remember Breaking Bad, it was a story of a teacher in school who needed money and had cancer, I think. So he found a way of making drugs and selling them. They say it's one of the best shows ever on TV. So now she's included on that. So according to an affidavit filed by federal prosecutors, 64-year-old Segovia received at least 61 packages at her home during October 2015 to January 23rd. When interviewed by officers, the grandma said to have tried to blame her housekeeper. That's not me with those, that's my housekeeper. Now the package, they came from India, Canada, Great Britain, Hong Kong, and China. They were labeled as containing an assortment of items, including wedding party favors, makeup supplements, and chocolate and sweets. And this lady, she had everything together as far as the labeling. So the investigators claimed that it didn't have any of that in those packages. It was fentanyl. So Joanne has always been extremely friendly and just enjoyable. If someone asked me who might be doing something unlawful, Joanna's name would never appear. But sometimes it's always a person who you don't expect, isn't it? She was first interviewed by agents on February 1st. And during that time, she was working for the police department. Why asked when her name and number were found on the phone of a suspected drug dealer, she alleged that she had no idea. During the second interview, she said that she had nothing to do with the drugs. Man. She said that the unnamed woman, her housekeeper, was suffering from a substance abuse disaster and had access to her personal, drugs. I mean, this is just so funny. She received at least 61 packages, and she allegedly sent the packages. The return address was the San Jose Police Officers Association. Wow. So the city is totally upset with what happened. She's receiving drugs there and has the gall to be, a grandma. So even somebody's grandma, instead of going over for coffee and cake, you're getting coffee, cake, and fentanyl. Something to think about. So you've been watching, of course, Keeping It Honest with yours truly, Anthony Parker. And what we do on the show, all this paperwork. We try to do a show that makes you think at the end of the day, boy, we need to help support him. We need to help him because we really like what he does. He's entertaining us. He's showing us, hey, you know what? Interesting, Mike. People walking by. We're in a live studio. This is live streaming. All right. So tell your friends, like us, share us, subscribe to us. Tell your friends that we keep it honest, we keep it real, and we keep it simple. Email me, parkerman2011@gmail.com. Parkerman2011@gmail.com. You can text me. Telephone number is 216-702-3718. 216-702-3718. And share the show, support the show, and keep it simple, keep it real, keep it honest. Something to think about. Negativity is a choice. Resentment is a choice. Anger is a choice. Optimism is a choice. Compassion is a choice. Forgiveness is a choice. Empathy is a choice. How we live our one given life is a choice. So choose wisely. We thank you again for supporting the show. Hit like, subscribe, tell your friends. If it wasn't for you guys supporting us as we grow, you grow. I'm Anthony Parker Alexander. Keep your head up, never look down, always believe in yourself, and therein will lie your answer. God bless.